Hello everyone, Lawrence Fleming here again. We're on Rapture Watch. So when is it? Well, I've got people telling me that it can't be any of the dates that I'm picking because they give me a list of dates, and I shouldn't pick dates because it says we can't pick dates, but they give me a date. We don't know. Let me play a little game here. We're watching for the rapture right now. Is it here? Come on. Get here before my pizza's ordered so I don't have to pay for it. Is it here yet? Not yet. Nope, maybe we missed it. No. You got to basically let it go and know that it is potentially any time, but it's been that way since Jesus was here. Any time. Paul was looking for it. The Thessalonians were looking for it and thought they missed it. That's 2,000 years ago, and they've been still looking for it. Now, things have changed a lot since then. We have a country of Israel now that has to be around for the midway point of the 70th day. They're ready to build the temple. They just need peace between one particular group of Muslims, not all of them. They've got peace agreements with a number of them. I believe that there's meetings going on right now with the United Arab Emirates because Iran is flexing their muscle and trying to disrupt the peace agreement that they have right now. They're divided. The Muslims, not all of them, want war. Most of them are realistic. Yeah, they have basically the same Quran that they all look at, kind of. But just like us, we've got many factions of our Bible believers, many factions of our Christians. Some at times have been at war with each other. Go to Northern Ireland and find out what their history's like. So we can't be pointing fingers at anybody. There's not enough time left, frankly, to be pointing fingers and causing squabbles amongst ourselves. Now, I agree with many of the watchers that we're on high watch because it has to be soon. But timing, what is the timing? Right now, it's not bad enough. There's a powder keg out there right now that could be set off any time. And if it is set off, we're going to be pulled out of here. Again, Brenda Weltner has another good video. Take a look at what she's done now. We see that everything is lining up, but we still don't have a timing. And I'm not talking about the infamous verse of you won't know the day or the hour. That has and always has been talking about the end, not the beginning of the 70th day. We're pre-trib, but I like her possibility of splitting the tribulation up because we're past if it's 2028 is the end of our calculation, we can't fit 7 years in the time that's left. So maybe we were wrong on when the tribulation starts. We got to be pretty accurate on the days, on the years, because 70 to 80 years, those are pretty standard numbers in the Bible. It's not 71 or 2 or 4, it's 70 to 80 is what it says. So we go with the early number, we're past that. We go with the later number. Technically, we have people living longer than 80 years, a lot of people. So we got to go with what God has given us. And we also know that God says that if the days, through John, that if the days were not shortened, nobody would live. that mean we're shortening the 70th day? Or does that just mean he's not doling out as much wrath? It's prophecy. We aren't going to know until we look back, as is with most prophecy. Okay, for my scripture readings, and I'm going to try to get by without everything blowing away right now. We had a storm go through and we had some rain. But I'm going to do my best to get through this and look at Timothy. Timothy was one of Paul's recruited and fellow servant. Let's look at 1 Timothy 4:1. Now the Spirit expressly says that in the later days some will depart from the faith, giving heed to deceiving spirits and doctrines of demons, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their own conscience seared with a hot iron so they can't possibly see what's really going on. Now we're seeing that now, but again, we've seen this before, but to the degree and in this time, we're in the later days now. We know that because we're in the fig tree generation. So all this has to apply now. Forbidding to marry and commanding to abstain from foods which God created, and to be received with thanksgiving by those who believe and know the truth. We're going to have all kinds of crazy things. We've got a slight reprieve, and he may play an instrumental part in controlling the future, and that would be Elon Musk. He just bought Twitter. Unless you don't do anything with social media, you already know that. And he tweeted out a funny tweet himself saying, okay, I bought Twitter, I'm going to delete it, and Facebook too. Go out and enjoy the outdoors. Well, I'm showing you how to do that, and that's what one of the richest men in the world is saying, is go out and enjoy the outdoors. So, let me know if you like these outdoor snippets that I include in here. I don't have to put anything in here other than me talking. But looking at God's creation behind me, I think, is more important than looking at me. That's why I don't talk about what I do. You don't need to know about me unless it pertains to something that you ask me a question on. I've been very blessed in my life, but you don't need to know about me, and I don't need to lift me up. God has been doing that piece by piece as I've been obedient to Him. Okay, now let's turn over to 2 Timothy. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 1. But know this, that in the last days perilous times will come. For men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to their parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, slanderers, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, hardy, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godlessness by denying its power. From such people turn away. I mean, does anybody really need to tell you that? If you're hanging out with the wrong people, it doesn't matter whether today's the last day or this is part of the last 10 years. We don't know. I think that it's either this year or next. And right now I think that it could easily be this year, looking at the way things are stacking up. But if it's not, these are still standards that you should be carrying. They're in the Bible. They're written by godly men. Paul met Christ on earth. Christ talked to the apostles. If you want to go back and look at the Gospels, we've got his quotes his red letter quotes in Matthew and in the other Gospels. We've got John as a witness in seeing his teachings in Revelation. We have prophets, and the prophets that are in the Old Testament were proven prophets. Who in their world would come up to anybody, prophet or not, and say, "You're going to tell me what my dream was before you tell me what it means"? So not only did the prophet have to know what the dream was, he had to be able to interpret it. And he did. These people had an ear for God. It's a special gift. Not many people have had it over the ages. But when they do have it, you listen to them. If a prophet is wrong once, they're no longer a prophet. And they've told us they've seen the future. And we're in the end times. But when, after 2,000 years of waiting, and maybe 70 plus years since Israel's been a nation, it's not much more time. But don't go sell everything you've got and travel around the world. You may run out of money a week before God gets here. Now, do you want to do a week-long fast or a 40-day fast because you're broke? If God tells you to do that, you definitely want to do it. But on something that big, on anything big, I ask for a fleece from God. It's not being disrespectful. We can hear voices in our ears or in our mind. We're not seeing burning bushes. I haven't seen one in my entire life. Yet I hear from God, and it's usually in small things. It's like, God, I need a job. I just got here. When I moved to Georgia, okay, I'll talk about myself a little bit. Just a little bit. I lived in Southern California. I had a good job, but I didn't want to put my kids in school there because everything you're seeing bad right now started early on in California. So we packed up and moved. We looked around. We even went on a tour of states, the family. When I had summer vacation, we traveled around a bunch of states in the West, and I couldn't find a job. There should have been plenty, but I couldn't find one. We had a couple come to our church. They were from Georgia, and they talked about it and said that it was nice, and I did look into it. I didn't have the full internet like you do now, but I did look into it. The company I work for, TRW Aerospace, we were working on a Lockheed subcontract. Well, Lockheed is here in the North Georgia area. So I figured I'd give them a shot. I sent a resume, but didn't hear back. But I figured, it's no big deal. I've never had trouble finding work. I trusted God. So we packed up in a U-Haul, towed a car, and we drove all the way to Georgia. 3.5 days of taking turns driving with 2 little kids and a big dog. In 2 cars. The wife drove the other car. We get to Georgia. We go stay in a motel for a little bit. Decided that that wasn't where I wanted to be. We went and got a campsite, which is where we're going to go in a couple of weeks here in the Georgia area. But we did that. We camped for almost a month while I was looking around. The kids enjoyed it. We got to have raccoons in our camp eating our food if we left it out on the table. We had deer. It's going to be pretty much the same thing. It's 30 some odd years ago, but it's going to be pretty much like that when I go there again. But I didn't have a job, and I had a family to take care of. And we prayed, and we went we still camping, but we had all the facilities to clean up and that, and we put everything in storage. So we'd go to the storage unit and get clothes so we could clean up for the church service. We went to this church that these people talked about. And it was in the northwest side of the Atlanta area, so that's where we ended up eventually moving to, all because of them. We went there a couple times, met the couple. They introduced us to someone that worked at Lockheed. And he goes, yeah, I'm hiring right now. I look for your resume when I get in. And he calls me on Monday and says, I can't find your resume. If you hand walk it over to me, you can start to work tomorrow. So I did. And I did start to work. And I worked there for a year. I eventually went out on my own and started my own company, but that's another story. But the thing is that God provided. I came here trusting Him, fully trusting Him, knowing that I would have a job. He provided it. And that's what you've got to continue to do. Whatever you do, you've got to have that faith. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. Without faith, it's impossible to receive from God anything that He has for you. Elon Musk spent $44 billion. Probably not all of his money. He's got some collaborators. Bezos says it's China, but who knows? All these rich guys, they're competing, and they're still rich guys. One may be a little better than the other, and I've known some rich people in my time, and some were good and some were bad. 44 billion, a lot of money. Doesn't come anywhere close to what God owns. He doesn't need money. If He wants a brand new SUV, He can just snap His fingers and want to grow out on a tree. Okay, I'm going a little bit far-fetched, but the bottom line is that He owns everything. Even the rich people and all their money, they're just borrowing bits and pieces of it. It's harder for a rich man to get into heaven than it is to go through let's see, how do I get the wording on that right? It's easier for him to go through the eye of a needle than it is to get into heaven. It's got to be tough, because power can corrupt. Now, Musk and a lot of these other rich people, they've had goals. He created PayPal because he felt there was a need, a better way to pay. And that kind of led into Bitcoin, and that's going to lead, so eventually he's going to help set up the Antichrist world. But that was never his goal. People take steps thinking that it's going to make things better. Well, the devil can use anything that we create and use it for himself. So the world is on the brink. North Korea is sitting up there, nobody paying attention to poor little North Korea. Well, they had to come out and say that they're going to go full ahead with their nuclear launch capability, and that they're going to target the United States, and that they're going to start World War III. Well, of course they're going to say all that. Nobody believes them. They've been saying this stuff for years. They could. China would love somebody else to take the lead on anything that's going to go on militarily, because whoever starts it is going to be known as the one who starts World War III. And when it starts, the rest of the world is going to be looking at them. Now, the radical Muslims, and again, it's not the people, it's the people in power. The radical Muslims would love to start World War III, because they think when they do, it will be the end of the world and they're going to come out on top. Satan has them completely wrapped around their finger. It's crazy to think that if you can create a war that will kill millions of people, that God is going to love that. But that's what they think. We don't know the time. Don't get anxious. Don't change your life plans. We have work to do. We've always had work to do. That's why I'm making videos. I choose to shoot them outside like I enjoy being out here, but I could do this in a studio. I've had a studio set up. I've got studio equipment. I'm just shooting this on my phone. It's easier. So I've got more time to enjoy being outdoors. I shoot them in one take now. I used to cut them all up, and you can watch some of the other videos where you can see where they've spliced them together, where they said something wrong and they cut it out so they don't mess up the wording. What you see right now is me. I'm not trying to impress anybody. I haven't shaved in a couple of days. I'm going to shave tomorrow. I haven't worked in a few days because I'm having to evaluate the companies. I don't like the direction Disney went. So I'm not going to work on any more Marvel films or anything else that Disney has to do with until they retract their comments. They should never have got involved politically. Now, I mean, a video leaked out, but somebody inside didn't like where they were going either. So they leaked the video. They need to retract that. They're making imagery for TV. Are their writers not good enough to embed changes? Of course they are. The TV show MASH, which lasted longer than the Korean War, was so well written that it got all kinds of awards and watched, like I said, longer than the actual war. It was an anti-war show, but it was about war. I wasn't offended by them showing me anti-war stuff. We all know war is hell. Embedding it with some comedy, embedding it with some reality mixed with comedy so you can swallow that pill, put a little honey on it. They got away with an anti-war show for 11 years. They didn't come out and say, we're going to make a show that's going to make you hate war and go out in the street and riot. And they didn't do any of that. They didn't have to. They had good writers. And you got a realistic, fairly realistic picture, as best as Hollywood can do anyway, of what it was like. Okay, I'm going to follow this up with a couple more Twitter comments. We know he's not going to throw $44 billion away, so he's not going to delete Twitter. But he could buy Facebook. He could buy YouTube. He could buy all three of them and put them together under a new name and call it, ready? UTwitface. Okay. Be nice to one another. Show our Christian love as we wait. I've been waiting all my life. I'm still here. We could die of natural death anytime. I'm almost 70. I'm not worried about it. While we're here, we have Jesus in us. When we die, we're in the arms of Jesus. When we go to heaven, we'll be there with him. If we're raptured, we'll see him in the skies. It doesn't matter. Jesus is wherever we are at as Christians from now through eternity. So it doesn't matter. If you're in pain and suffering, I've got some people on my channel that are homebound. I'm sorry that you're having to go through that. But I can't make things go faster. Jesus is not going to make things go faster for us. The timing has already been laid down. We can't change it. There's no need to change it. It's perfect. If we're having problems, focus our prayers on endurance, healing, and whatever it takes for us to be a better Christian here on earth. That should be our focus. And of course, by being a better Christian, the first thing that we're going to have to do after we get ourselves ready is to tell somebody else about it. If you can come up to somebody and say, I've had this ailment for so long and I've had this pain for so long, but I'm fine, I'm getting through with it, I'm finding ways to endure it, Jesus is giving me strength. If you tell that to somebody who has a similar problem, it can give them hope that they can also get that same strength. So whatever we're going through, good or bad, I told you my story about God being good and helping me find a job, but I've had other downsides to things, and God has helped me get through those as well. I'll cover some of those at a later time, but again, I don't like talking about myself. But I do have lots of good stories that I can back up, that I know who God is and who Jesus is. Be patient. Don't let the news scare you either, because they love to scare you. The more you're scared and running around and, oh my God, the more they can do stuff. Watch a magician. You're going to see his hand that he wants you to see. It's going to be out front. Watch his other hand. And anytime the two hands come together, know he's up to something. The little ball's in this hand, close the fist, they come together, and he can transfer the ball to the other hand in such a way that you won't know that he's done it, unless you know that's the way the trick works. Our government, Satan, is not only a liar, he's a trickster. Now, there's nothing wrong with magicians. I've gone over my limit, I'm still talking. All right, I'm not going to add any more camp footage to this one. You're going to get what you get behind me. Look around. God does not want us to be ignorant of what's going on. We are still on a rapture watch. Don't give up on that, because we're still here. It is still imminent. And things are still building. We are so close now. It could be literally any time now. Because the rapture is not tied to any date. The second coming is tied to a date. All the Jewish things are tied to Jewish event dates. The rapture is of the Christian church, the Christian people. We don't have to follow any dates. Now, if we're raptured, something big is going to happen. And that will kick off continuing the timeline. Now, if Brenda's right and we're already halfway through the 70th day, we still got to kick off the second half, which leads into the abomination of desolation, but they got to have a temple. They don't have a temple yet. So something's got to happen to bring some peace over there. Let's get this Magog war out of the way. Let them get slapped around for a little bit. It's not going to completely deter them, because they're going to come back and try to finish it off later. But for now, that's what we're looking for. That's what we're waiting on. All this turmoil and the fighting going on over there, they're ready. And of course, we're ready. So hopefully I'm going to see you in the skies soon. But if not, I'm out here enjoying God's creation, which is what you should be doing. Get off of you, twit face. Get outdoors. God created this stuff long before social media. Social media is fairly new, and a sign of us getting in the end times. It's a distraction. That doesn't tell you what to do. I don't know what does. Okay. God bless. Be kind to someone today. Not tomorrow, today. Find someone to be kind to. In Jesus' name, goodbye.